Hello, all, and happy Monday. I hope that everybody had a wonderful spring break. I hope you guys got the opportunity to relax, go outside, participate in any activities that you enjoy, and I hope you are well rested. This week, I am so excited because we are starting our Charlotte's Web novel study. I love this book, and I really think that you guys are going to love it as well. So at this point, you should have read chapter 1 and watched the Edpuzzle to answer some questions. And that was your reading assignment for today and tomorrow. Your writing assignment for today and tomorrow is going to follow along with the Charlotte's Web reading, and it's going to continue on in this way until we reach the end of the novel. So we're going to write a diary entry for each chapter of the novel. You'll be able to do that on Google Classroom, and I'll show you where it's at as soon as my computer pulls it up. So right now it's a gray color because I'm recording the video before I've assigned the assignment, but you will be able to see it starting today, and it says Diary of a Pig, chapters 1 through 22. I'm going to keep this assignment there for all of the chapters. So that means I'm not going to post a new diary assignment each chapter. It's all going to be in that one document so that it's easier for you guys to see and work on. It'll also be easier if you guys want to print it out. So that's where it's located. If you see my cursor, I've just been going around. Now let's get into it and see how we're going to complete the assignment. So let me pull this back up. Here we go. All right, so your task is to create diary entries summarizing each chapter of Charlotte's Web. You are to pretend that you are Wilbur writing the journal entries. Be sure to include Wilbur's point of view or perspective of story events. So what do you guys know about a diary? That's right. It's where somebody writes their own personal thoughts in either a journal or a writing notebook. So we're going to pretend that we're Wilbur to write our own personal thoughts. Before we do that, though, what is point of view or perspective? That's right. Point of view or perspective is how the author feels about the topic. Now, a character can also have point of view or perspective. It's just how that character feels about a topic. I'm sure you guys are picturing me pointing to my head, what the character thinks, and putting my hands over my heart, what the character feels. I did that a lot when we were back in the classroom. So as we're writing this journal, we're going to be asking ourselves, how does Wilbur think and feel about the events in the chapter? Some ways to identify how the character thinks or feels about something is you're going to take a look at what problem or conflicts they're facing in that chapter, what their actions are in that chapter, meaning what they're doing, their language and dialogue in that chapter, meaning what they're saying. And these three pieces of information are really going to be able to tell you how the characters feel about the event. And remember, it can be author's perspective or character's perspective. We're going to be focusing on Wilbur's perspective. And while we're pretending to be Wilbur, we're going to be talking about a lot of the story events, meaning we're going to summarize the chapter. So what does it mean to summarize? That's right. It means to tell me what happens in the chapter. A summary is told in sequence, meaning it's in order. It can include the main idea, supporting details, and theme of the story. And it can be written in about 3 to 5 sentences, which is a lot different than a whole chapter, which is about 3 to 5 pages. So all of this gives you a shortened version of the story, and it retells the important parts of the story. Make sure to think about what happened in the beginning of the chapter. Who are the characters? What's the setting? And what's the problem? Then move on into the middle of the chapter. What events happened to the characters, specifically Wilbur? And what is the climax of the story? Meaning, what is the most important and most exciting event of this chapter? And then you'll go ahead and focus on the end. How is the problem resolved, if it is resolved? And how have the characters changed in this chapter? A great way to summarize is to put it in your own words using somebody, wanted, but, so, and then. These will really help you just focus on summarizing the chapter and refreshing your mind on what the chapter was about. So somebody is obviously who are the characters. Wanted, what did that character want to do? But what's the problem they're facing? So how did they try to solve the problem, or what other events happened? And then, what was the resolution of the story? Now remember, this is just great pre-writing because we're going to pretend that we're Wilbur. So let's take a look at a summary of chapter 1. All right, you guys can read along with me with this. It's also a good idea to keep this paused when you're actually writing the diary entry so you can refer back to it. Chapter 1, Before Breakfast. Charlotte's Web kicks off with Fern. Oops, let me get this out of the way. Charlotte's Web kicks off with Fern Arable asking her mother a question. Where's Papa going with that axe? Huh? That's not the first line you normally see in a kid's book. But now that you mention it, Fern, we're pretty curious too. According to Fern's mama, Mrs. Arable, Papa is heading out to the hog house to do away with the smallest pig. But this little euphemism isn't about to fool Fern. She turns out to be quite the smarty pants and realizes right away that do away means kill. Fern isn't about to stand for this pig killing business. It just doesn't seem fair to kill a newborn pig just because he's the runt of the litter. So Fern rushes outside and pleads with her dad to spare the pig. She tries to take the axe from his hands. Whoa, Fern, safety first. Papa puts up a struggle, but it looks like Fern is a daddy's girl because she eventually gets her way. Her dad decides to save the pig and let her care for it just like a baby. Sounds like he also thinks Fern might teach... Sounds like he also thinks this might teach Fern a lesson about just how tough it can be to care for animals. Soon after, Papa brings the pig into the house and sets it in a carton at the kitchen table. Oh, and there's bacon for breakfast sitting at the kitchen table. Awkward. When Fern sees a pig, she's psyched. A new pet! We can't say the same for Fern's 10-year-old brother, Avery. Check this out. Avery comes into the kitchen with not one, but 2 weapons. An air rifle and a wooden dagger. Don't cross this kid is all we're saying. When Avery sees the pig, he thinks it looks pretty silly because it's so small. But then he asks his dad if he can have one too. Seems like Avery might be a smidge jealous of his little sis. The family tries to eat a bit of breakfast before the kids head off to school, but Fern just wants to make sure her new pig gets his meal. So she feeds him milk with a baby bottle. How sweet is that? On the bus to school, all Fern can dream about is her cute little pig, and soon she's come up with the most beautiful name she could think of. Wilbur. Fern is so into her new pet that she keeps daydreaming about him in class. So when her teacher asks Fern to recite the capital of Pennsylvania, what do you think Fern says? Yup, Wilbur. The girl's only got one thing on her mind. So this is a great summary of chapter 1. It tells you all of the important details. We're going to keep this in our mind so that we can pretend we're Wilbur and write a diary entry. I'm going to show you my example of a diary entry, and then I want you to do your own. All right, here's my short, sweet diary entry. I have the date up in the top right-hand corner, April 20th, 2020. I have Dear Diary and a comma to start off with. Today, oh, and remember, I'm pretending that I'm Wilbur. Dear Diary, today started out pretty crazy. After being told I was a runt, Fern's dad came after me with an axe and almost turned me into crispy bacon. Thank heavens for Fern. She saved me. It was quite a scene, but hey, I'm alive. I know she's going to take great care of me forever. I'm one lucky pig. All right, guys, so this is my example. I do expect a little bit more details from you. These are some other things that I'm going to be looking for when I read your diary entries. Point of view, meaning, were you pretending you were Wilbur? And were you pretending you were Wilbur the whole time? Plot events. Did you describe to me actual events that happened in that chapter? And are they correct? Character feelings. Wilbur turns out to be a very emotional character. So throughout this chapter and throughout this whole novel, you'll notice that he has strong feelings. And I want you to explain them to me. And finally, mechanics and grammar. Did you check your spelling? Did you check your punctuation? I even noticed that when I was reading, I forgot a comma right here. Let me scroll over. Right, thank heavens for Fern, comma, she saved me. And then I also forgot a comma here. It was quite a scene, but, comma, hey, I am alive. So don't forget to go back and reread your diary entry to make sure you add the correct punctuation and change the spelling. And one more time, I just want to point out a diary entry has the date. A diary entry usually starts with Dear Diary and a comma. And a diary entry usually ends with a salutation. Love, Wilbur. Don't forget that comma. All right, guys, show me what you got.